Welcome to Roxtalks, the podcast that helps network marketers grow their business on social media. Question, how is your branding going? Now, if you're like, branding, I don't need branding, Roxanne. I have my company. Yeah, they've got the branding. I've got all those things. What do you mean? I mean your actual personal brand. Whether you are just starting out in network marketing or it's something that you've been doing for a decade, 5 years, 15 years, 20 years, you having your own personal brand is so very important to the whole piece of the pie. But I thought that rather than me just tell you that, because branding is a big thing, I thought I'd bring in a branding expert, Kimberly Costa, to join us and really give you clarity on the importance of a brand. Now, if you were at the Social Media for Network Marketers Summit, you met Kimberly Costa there. She had a phenomenal presentation. We had a great conversation about branding. But let me tell you a little bit about her. And there's some things that I'm going to tell you today that I didn't even say in the summit. But Kimberly actually fell in love with the concept of being an animator when she was 5 years old. She lived in Costa Rica, and her dad came back with a Viewmaster with Sleeping Beauty slides in it. And she thought from that point on, she wanted to be an animator. So she went on at 17, she came to the US, she got her BFA in traditional animation, and she went on to work with big names in studios like Nick Jr., Cartoon Network, PBS Kids, and Disney on Broadway. Pretty amazing, right? One day, while she was scoping out the idea of doing her next project, she learned that she'd be animating talking butt. Yes, a talking butt. And that's when she decided it was time to break up with animation. And thankfully, she did that because it was through that and her passion for really showing the love of design to everyone and making it easy and accessible for small business owners that she then created Brand Kits. If you're not familiar with Brand Kits is a phenomenal and easy way for you and I, those of us who are not, we're not designers, but boy, do we need a brand to not only have logos, but also have great opt-ins as well as great posts and just have them all branded looking really professional and tight. And the funny thing about that, I always think is like, we think, do we need that? But what we don't realize is visually people are attracted to that, even if they don't realize the nuances behind it. So anyway, that's a little bit about Kimberly. I can't wait for you to hear her heart and her expertise on all things branding. And I know you're going to get a lot of nuggets. Be sure to listen into really her biggest mission when it comes to branding. You're going to hear her talk about how, everyone wants to talk about the colors and the logo, but there's a big part that has to be taken care of before that. And what I love is she's going to go into that big part with you and help you and walk you through that. So without further ado, let's listen in with my conversation with Kimberly Costa. Gotta say, Be Live is like on the tip of my tongue these days. Why? Because I have so many people who listen to the podcast asking me, Roxanne, I want to hear more about Be Live. And I love that because Be Live is hands down the way to really differentiate yourself and stop the scroll when it comes to your live video and live streaming. We just finished a month of live streaming and the live video challenge. And what I love about that is a lot of network marketers are realizing the importance of doing quality, not quantity, but quality live videos. In order to help with that quality process, using Be Live as your live streaming channel is the way to go. I almost said YouTube, which you can do it on YouTube, on Facebook, and soon to be on LinkedIn. It's a great way for you to stream and look professional. I use it for all of my videos. So you're watching me. If you're watching me right now on YouTube, you're watching Be Live as well as all of my live streaming videos. And I couldn't be happier. In fact, I have passed the 1 year anniversary with Be Live, and I can't wait to get to the year 2, 5, 10, 20, and beyond, because I know the difference it's not only making from allowing me to connect with my target market, but also what it's doing for my clients as they embark and they grow as well too. If you would like to try Be Live, would you? Well, let me go ahead and offer you a 14-day free trial with Be Live. Just simply go to bit.ly/ubelive. bit.ly/ubelive, or come on over to the podcast page, Roxtalks Podcast. You'll see the link there. Can't wait to see you in Be Live. Kimberly, it's so good to see you. Thank you for being here with us.
So good to see you too.
I have to say that I think your expertise, being the creator and founder of Brand Kits and being all about branding, is probably one of the things that is really exciting to most network marketers, but also is a little bit terrifying to network marketers too.
Yeah.
And I think you're really, because I think that's because the idea and the concept of having a brand sounds really cool, but it's like, where do you start? How do you make that happen?
Right. I think it's different for network marketers, you were telling me.
Yeah, it is. It's very different for network marketers. And, I think what was great having you on the summit, you've seen and you've gotten to see more of network marketers and kind of how it works. But it is different because when we start as network marketers, we're told business isn't like, here's your business in a box and we have the brand for you and all the things and even the stock photos. And you're like, yay. However, what happens is we then end up removing ourselves from the equation and trying to be like everybody else in the company or trying to be like the company. So I'm really excited to have you here today to kind of help us work through that and all those things. I guess my first question for you as we get started is, why do you think it's important for someone who is a network marketer to have their own personal brand?
Well, I think it's very important, and everybody, this is whether you're a network marketer or any business owner, it's very important for people to trust you specifically, because it's very different. And this is like, if you think about people, when you're making a recommendation, most people buy from recommendations. Like the first thing that you do when you need, I don't know, a landscape artist, like anything. It's not even a network marketer or any kind of product, like just something around your house. And I said landscape artist because we just had landscaping.
I was going to say, that's a little random, but okay.
We just had like some really cool stuff done. And I'm like, you never want, I actually, like people were passing by the house, they're like, who did you use? Who did you use? That's the first thing that people want to know. Who did you use? Like, what product did you like? What did you like? People don't want to know what you're selling necessarily, especially as a network marketer. They want to know why you liked it. Why are you selling this? Do you use it? Like, they want that trust factor, I think, more than anything. Like, I think as business owners in general, we want people to trust us, but especially as a network marketer, because you're selling someone else's product.
Yeah.
So I think
that's really
that's a huge part.
And what you said was, there's so many great things in what you said. First and foremost, I think about like, I saw a stat recently that said that Amazon reviews and the amount of people that buy things based on reviews on Amazon has just been skyrocketing, which is just like I would love someone to be able to tell me who they used about and what their experience was. But take it a step further, knowing the person and feeling like you can,
Yeah. And I mean, if you think about it, like think about your own like purchasing behavior. Like my husband is crazy. Like he shops a lot and he's like always like scrolling through reviews. Like we both do it. And that's the first thing, because yes, everybody describes their product beautifully. You get a nice copywriter. They do a great job. But what do real people say about this? You're the real person. You're the person that is going to tell these people, yes, I've tried this. I love it. You should use it.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that I think it's the reason why companies in general like to have network marketers. And what you said was such a good point. Like one of the problems or the challenges, I will call it, with network marketing is that when you're doing network marketing, you actually don't have your own product. And so you've got to get past that barrier of, this is not my own product that I'm selling. But that's why I think people love being able to take their product to market via network marketing, because it makes such a benefit. So I do see that as one of the big barriers or the big challenge, I should say, for network marketing. And then the thing is that we advertise and we position network marketing as being so easy that we almost tell people that they don't have to keep their own personality in it. And I did a one-on-one, one of my coaching sessions with, she wouldn't mind me saying her name. Her name is Rochelle. And she said to me, it was just an hour ago, she said, Rox, what you don't realize is you allow us to blossom, to be ourselves. And and I was like, can I write that down? Which I think is the perfect segue to talking to you about branding. So I love how you've broken down, this is why branding is important. And we realize it's a challenge. How do you deal with clients one-on-one, you deal with all sorts of people. How do you deal with someone who's like, okay, I know I need to brand myself, but I don't even know where to start. How does one start that journey?
Well, and I wanted to go back to what you said for a second, because you were saying how it's a challenge to network marketers that it's not their own product. But in a sense, like when you're talking about branding, I think it's almost like it could be a relief. Like I think maybe you can change your perspective and say, you know what? You don't have to worry now about developing a product. It's already done. It's good. They, ship it the whole nine. All you have to worry about is your brand, how you are positioning that product for your people. So you don't even have to worry. Like I have brand kits, right? I have to do all the whole brand, do the website, do whatever. And I also have to build the product. It is like insane. You don't even have that part. You don't have to worry about that. So that's like changing it up there.
I love how you reposition that. So that's perfect. So the good news is you don't have to come up with the product that you sell.
Yes.
You don't have to come up with the new products or the new line or the new scents or the new shades or the new strips. That's done for you. All you have to do is be yourself.
Yeah.
And sell and position this product and joining your team through the lens of you being yourself. I love this. I love this so much.
Yes.
That's phenomenal. So how does one start that?
Well, I think, and I was talking to you about it, one of the biggest problems that I see, and I talk a lot about this, I feel like I'm never able to talk about the fun stuff because I'm always talking about this part specifically. It's clarity. Because even my one-to-one clients, I get it all the time. Like people are like, I work with a designer, but I really don't like what they did. I actually hate it or whatever. So now I'm looking for someone new. And they think it's like the designer didn't, work out. They didn't know what I wanted. You didn't even know what you wanted. That was actually the problem. That's like always the problem. I mean, guaranteed. I'm not saying there aren't like crappy designers out there. There's definitely like people that,
Sure.
There's horror stories. But for the most part, what ends up happening, because like I'll put people through a brand questionnaire and like all this stuff, and I talk them through things. And then we find out that they really didn't know what they were trying to do for their customer or how they were going to do that transformation that they're talking about. Like they didn't know what emotion. I'm like, oh yeah, so what emotion are you branding? They didn't know. People are like, what do you mean what emotion? So let's talk about that one. Because I think that's where everybody should start.
Yeah, let me pause you 1 second. So what you're saying is the biggest issue and the biggest hurdle you need to get over before you get to do the fun stuff, which everyone thinks the fun stuff is, I'm going to pick up my logo and my colors and it's going to be so much fun, is clarity. Like getting clear on all the things. And you were preaching and I was picking up what you're putting down, because we think we know what we want and then we see it like, that's not what I wanted. But what you actually said, you didn't say it, which is because we don't think, if you're not a branding expert, we're not thinking about all the things that go into branding yourself. So the first thing you said was emotion.
Yeah. Emotion, I think, would be the place to start for everybody, because it's the easiest thing for you to think about. Like, and all you have to do is think about it this way. What do you want people to feel when they interact with your brand? And that could be with you. That could be with your website. That could be with your ad. It could be your customer service. So your brand is all of those things.
So for network marketing, sorry, I'm going to translate that. For network marketing then, what emotion do you want people to feel when they deal with you, when they go onto your social media, so your Instagram or your Facebook, and all the aspects, the lives that you're doing, the stories, the posts. What emotion do you want them to feel when you're sending out an email and they read your email or your text message or your DMs? Another reason not to be spammy Tammy. But also when they're using the products that you're offering. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, everything. What do you want them to feel? So like my emotion, and that's why I named my company, like my umbrella company is Delightfully Designing. That's why I named it Delightfully Designing. Because I want the experience. Like a lot of people come in like stressed out. I don't know how to get started, this, that, whatever. I wanted the experience to be delightful. And that was my emotion. So then once you have your emotion, you can say, all right, you can start thinking, because people are like, I don't know what colors to use. I don't know what fonts to use. I don't know what all these things. But when you have an emotion, it's sort of like you have this little thing and you can start describing it now with color, with fonts, with a logo. And like, that's how you even name it. So for me, it's like, what is delightful? What is a delightful name? Because then obviously I know what I do. I design. I actually want it delightfully designed, but I couldn't get the URL. So
someone else had it.
Delightfully designing.
It happens.
You know what I mean? Like that informed my name. It informed my logo, my colors, my everything. So the first thing that I would start out with is an emotion. Pick an emotion.
Okay, so we've got the clarity. We're going to pick an emotion. What experience do you want people to have for all the things, which is huge. And, I should say we've got people watching live. And so those of you watching live, I'm going to give you some homework. And if you're listening to the recording, I'm going to give you this homework as well, too. Right now, like think fast. What is the emotion you want people to have when they encounter you and all that you offer? And drop it down in the chat if you're watching here live as the live stream for the Social Stories members, because we'd love to know that. That's powerful. And for those of you who are like, gosh, I'm not even sure, or my catalog is like 500 products for the business or the company, I'd say go back to that hero product. I'm always sending you the hero product. Go back to the hero product. And if that's the thing that you love talking about, that's the thing that when you talk about when they experience the product, that's the product you want them to focus on.
And I don't know how you were teaching, but like in terms of like, because you said hero product, what is it how do people go about picking their products? Like, are they trying to come up with a transformation for people? Are you specifically trying to, help people with something? Like, if that's what you're specifically trying to do, like, I don't know, I'm just talking. Like, I'm trying to help people with like confidence or, feeling better about their image or whatever. So I do skin products, let's say. What that transformation, that's where you should start going to search. Like, I see joy. What else do we see?
Valued.
Authenticity, transparency. Yeah. So like, that's where you should be going with this. Like, what is it that you're trying? Like for me, when I think I was defining brand yesterday, like for myself. And one of the things was it's the mark that you're trying to leave in the world. So if you're, already thinking, I want to help people with this, and this is why I picked these products. And again, that's why I'm saying to you, I don't know how you're teaching it, but maybe that's what you should be thinking about. And then saying, okay, I want to pick these products because they align with what I want to help people with or what I want to leave as a mark in the world. And then, then the products become like a second part. You're the center stage. Like that's what it's your brand. These are the supporting characters,
So absolutely. What's interesting about that is, and this is what I think one of the things that sets us as network marketers apart from most entrepreneurs is we end up kind of falling into, at least initially, our first network marketing company. It was like, oh, we use the products and we thought, okay, or I started this. And so sometimes people pick products that if they went through the process of, let me just start with, what do I love? What am I passionate about? Would not be the products. Like, gosh, I love beef jerky, but I'm in a vegan company. So it's a little backwards for network
and that's
marketers.
Totally fine, because I think that's how you start with anything. And like one of my big things is your brand grows with you. It's not like set in stone, like that's it.
Yes.
People are going to continue to change. And as you grow, as you watch this live, maybe you're like, oh my God, yes, I have beliefs in my life and opinions, and maybe I should be looking for products that align with that. Do you know what I mean? Like we all start out somewhere, but that doesn't mean that you don't learn and grow. Your brand grows with you.
Yes, it evolves. I love that. You said there's so many good things you thought. We said I should be taking notes and talking to you at the same time. But you said something about how your brand should be the mark you want to leave in this world. And that is huge. Like that's going to be the quote of the podcast. I think it's so fantastic. I can just tell already this is the quote. But here's what this also came to me. Okay, so I've been watching. Have you ever heard of this show Yellowstone?
Yellowstone?
Really? No. Kevin Costner, who like I really personally I swore him off after he did Waterworld and The Postman. Not that I saw either of them, but I went to Universal Studios a lot. And don't. I think it would ruin. They weren't good. I just know they weren't. And so I'm like, he's dried up. However, they're about to start season 4 of this show called Yellowstone, which watch it. It's fantastic. You can get it free on Peacock.
Now I'm going to have to watch it.
Yeah, you will. So good. But one of the things, and it's not giving away the plot, but they brand people, like physically brand people with the Y of the Yellowstone. And it took me to the point of like, gosh, why do we call something our brand? Go back to the traditional branding of like animals and things, right?
Yeah.
It was so you'd never, I remember once there's one episode where they're like, why do you brand yourself? So you never like, so if you get lost, people know where you belong.
Right.
And I just to share that, keep going. But I'm like, oh, branding. If we think about branding as like actually branding, we may take it.
Yeah. It's like the guide. It's like the guide that like, you know, informs every single thing that you do. Like that's why you have a brand guide, a style guide, or whatever. All these things, and it's all about, you know, having this organization and these. I don't like calling them rules because I hate the word rules, but like guides for you to like follow along. Because I don't know about you, but for me, I'm like in decision overload. I hate making decisions. Like it just like stupid things like, you know, what are we going to have for dinner is so annoying. And you know what I mean? It's like, I don't care. Just decide and I'll come, you know? But I feel like that's how it is with business. And that's why it's so much easier to be like, find an emotion. Because when you find that emotion, you just have to make that one decision. And then everything just kind of falls into place. Because if you're doing a delightful brand, you're not going to pick black or red.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like those things kind of start like Xing themselves out. And then you're like left with, okay, maybe I like teal or maybe pastel colors, or like things start making sense based on this one emotion. And so it's easier to start branding, like, you know, designing and branding yourself in that sense. Because I think what happens to people a lot is that they're like, I don't know how to get started. It's like looking at a blank piece of paper. It's like the most awful thing. You don't know what to do. Mm-hmm. But it's kind of like, calm down, just think of an emotion. That's really easy. We're all emotional beings. What is it that you want people to feel from you? You can identify that easily, and then work your way backwards.
That's genius. So once we've figured out, and kudos to everyone who's been shouting out their emotions. They sound fantastic. Yeah. I'm excited for y'all to lean into that. What do we do then?
After what? Your emotion?
Yeah.
Well, then afterwards, that's where you start. And I think, and again, like you have to guide me in terms of like network marketing.
Sure.
Because yeah. I'm assuming you do have your own business name, or do you have to like fall into?
So that's funny that you say that, because technically, so when people start again, because they're like, okay, I'll throw out like, I'm a pampered chef consultant. So what they end up doing in their mind, and this is just because, and this is not just pampered chef, this all of them, most of them, I should say most of them, is then the Facebook page becomes Roxanne Wilson, pampered chef. Right. And the Instagram is Pampered Chef Roxanne or Pampered Rampered Roxanne Chef. Like, and so we think, oh my gosh, I'm in Pampered Chef. So that's how I need to identify myself. Right. In fact, to go back to what you're saying, it's like when we join a company, we think that's our brand. Literally, think, that's our brand.
And then what happens if you're like, I don't like Pampered Chef anymore. I don't want to do that anymore.
Then you're
exactly. So that's why you actually do have to say, I do have to create my brand, because you're not just gonna have one product. I'm assuming you might have like a family of things, or like we said, you know, things that align with each other as like your collection of products that you sell. It would be under your umbrella.
So 2 reasons then for branding yourself. Reason number 1 is people want to buy from you and not your company, is what we're trying to. And the second thing is, believe it or not, you may not want to stay with your company for the rest of your life. And if everything is that company, then it's like, wait, who's she? And then you got to start all over.
Yeah. And then you might start all over with the next, you don't want to do that. Like you want to make sure you have your company name. And again, like it can be your name. Like a lot of people brand their own names, whether they're network marketers or regular, business owners. Like you can brand your name specifically. I'm trying to think of an example. Like I don't know what I would trying to think of an example, like what you could use that wasn't necessarily your name.
So what I see sometimes, I've seen like life by design or intentional life. So different like things that go back to that emotion or the thing that they want people to get to. Right. Like self-care is not selfish, might be there, things like that.
That's great. See, because you're in there, so you know. but that's great. Life by Design is great because it's also very like open. And so if you were like, you know what, I'm with this vegan company but I don't like how they're doing things. I don't like what they stand for. Like, I mean, nowadays, like there's a lot of weirdness where you're like, I don't like what they're saying. I want to move to somewhere else. Like Life by Design can still be an umbrella for a lot of different things. And for that's one thing that I definitely tell people when they're starting their business, network marketer or not, you should think of a name that can encompass, a lot in it. So for example, like Delightfully Designing, I knew for me, I'm always going to be a designer, whether I've done greeting card design, I've done illustration, web design, brand design. It's always going to be design though. So Delightfully Designing worked because it's always going to be my emotion and it's always going to be part of what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. So it's going to grow with you. So try to think about a name that's going to grow with you.
Yeah, mine is Roxtalks, really, but I always talk. It's what I do.
Is great.
I was a lawyer. I talked. I was radio, TV.
Always going to talk about something.
I'm always going to talk. Your name is not a bad place to start or even end.
Yeah, I agree.
Don't feel like you have to have this catchy yada yada, down the road.
Your name your name doesn't have to grow with you. Your name's always your name. So
your name is your brand. It's the first brand we ever get, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. What other tips would you give as people get started? And then I have some questions for you. And by the way, if you're watching live and you have questions you want to pop in, let us know because we'll answer those as well too. But there's no questions yet, but I'll let you know.
Okay. So what would be the next steps? The next steps would be like, now that we talked about the name, the next step is like everybody's, you see it everywhere. The logo. What do you do with the logo? Mm-hmm. So I think, and I have, I do brand kits, which is my new business. I have kits for like all sorts of things. And one of them has a logo kit as well. Mm-hmm. I think in general, simplicity for logos is the best way to go. I've seen a lot of logos with a lot of weird, scripty handwriting that you can't read. Mm-hmm. Like legibility is huge. It's important. People need to be able to read your logo. People need to be able to see and read your logo when it's this big, like super tiny. Like that's why you have also alternate logos, so that, if your logo is like long like this, there's a smaller version. But I would keep things, especially if you're not a designer and you don't know what to do and you can't afford a designer, I would keep your logo simple. I would also not listen to people who are like, your logo is like the most important thing, and if you don't get it right the first time, I hate that kind of talk. Like I do. You know what I mean? Like when I say your brand goes with you, I really, really mean it. You're going to evolve, and no one's gonna die if you change your logo, because now you're much more clear on what you're doing and whatever. So don't freak out about your logo. And in the same breath, I will also say that if you're going to invest in anything in your branding, it should be your logo. I wouldn't go crazy with because branding is expensive, but like the one thing that if someone asked me like, what should I invest in? It would be your logo, because everything else there are, you can do your website on lots of different platforms. There's templates for everything. I have templates for everything. I mean, I even have templates for logos, but your logo is special. And if you're like, okay, I have money to invest, that's where I would invest, because like we're talking about branding, that is your image, the first thing that everybody sees. It should be memorable, the whole nine. So if you're not comfortable, that's where I would invest. But again, I wouldn't stress out like your logo.
Thank you for giving us permission to not stress out about what the logo looks like. I mean, truth is, we're not Nordstrom or McDonald's. When they change their logo, it costs a lot of money. When you see, like, I remember when I don't know, I got Payless shoe stores on the mind. Don't ask me why. We used to go there when I was a child. But when they changed their logo, that was like a big deal. And you'd see the new stores and the older stores, and it cost millions, if not billions of dollars to do. None of us have that kind of infrastructure. If we want to change our logo, we just go in and make that change. It's done.
Right. So I wouldn't stress out. Like, I really don't like that. I put out a couple of ads with very bad opinions for designers, where I was like, design your brand without a designer. And like, people didn't like that. Like, designers didn't like that. But I've been around, I'm a small business owner. I wasn't always a designer. I'm actually an animator. That's what my degree says,
So cool.
So yeah, like, I actually moved into design from a lot of different things. You can learn design, you can do it yourself, whatever. I don't like people like being bullied into stuff. I don't think that's a good, you don't make good decisions from that place. So I think you need to just, do like the work of the clarity and on all that foundation that we're talking about. When you you get like a template for your logo, or once you're able to invest with a designer, or you say, you know what, I'm going to do my logo and I'm going to design it, whatever. Your brand is much more than your logo anyway. And that you hear everybody say all the time. And it's true.
Okay. So what I'm hearing you say is things we need to focus on for branding is clarity, which is that emotion piece of it. And the rest is going to come together. I do want to talk to you though, for those who are at a point where they're like, awesome, I am really clear on who I want, or how I want to emote and what kind of emotion I want to give to the world. Let's talk about what you do, because I think it's very important. And I think it's one of those like those exhaling moments for everyone in the world. Will you please tell us what Brand Kits does?
Oh, Brand Kits. Brand Kits was born out of like a real desire to help small business owners, because I started out working with small companies, small business owners, but they were already in like a different level. Obviously, they were investing a lot of money to have their branding done or their web design done or whatever. So, and what was happening to me was I was getting on calls with really cool business owners that had a really nice idea, a nice business. They wanted to get branded, but the budget was not there. So I was trying to bend over backwards, to work with these people to help them, because I really did want to help them. And that's where Brand Kits came in, because what I did was I have a very specific process in the way that I brand people, because I have an animation illustration background. I like layering in illustration and pattern design and all sorts of different things. So what I did is I broke down that process and put it into they're Canva templates. So they are basically, I created them to be modular. And again, this comes from being very close to business owners and how you don't have money to put into everything right away. So maybe right now you need to design your opt-in. And so you can grab the opt-in kit, and it's $67. It's not $500 or $8,000. It's $67, and you can take it and you can work on that part of your business. And then maybe 2 months later, you're like, okay, I'm ready, to do my launch or a sale or whatever. And there's another kit to help you. So these are like modular, meant to touch on all the points that you need. Like, I have a branding kit, I have the opt-in kit, a launch kit, all these things, and everything that I can separate out so that it's easier. Like, it's meant to be very easy, like bite-sized pieces for you to actually work on. So you're not overwhelmed. So you're not overwhelmed financially either, obviously. And then you can add on and build on. Again, everything for me is like a building block. I love Legos.
That's why you're an animator. You think about all the different layers.
Oh my God, you don't even know with animation. It's ridiculous. You have to have a plan, and everything builds on the next thing. You cannot do anything without the previous step. It'll fall apart. That's how I see branding too.
Well, and it's funny you say that, because we want to jump to the next. We want to jump to the top.
Yeah.
always. And you're like,
Always.
nope, we got to go step by step by
Yeah.
step. I love brand kits. I think it's genius. In fact, my mom was wanting to do an opt-in or a lead gen, as we call it, or something. And she's like, and you were just getting it up and ready to go. I'm like, stop, don't do it. Oh no, she wanted a presentation. Like, she's like, I need some Canva templates for presentation. I'm like, stop, you've got to wait. When it's ready, I will let you know. But I'm excited that a lot of Social Stories members have access to your brand kits, and we'll be diving into that soon with them. But because it gives them that comfort level. And that's what I like about what you do with brand kits. If you ask me how I describe it for like the network marketer, is that it makes it really easy. So you've got, especially with what you've just given us, the clarity, the emotion, and then it's like, all right, now I've got these kits where I can change and you can drive the colors or even the fonts or whatever I need to inside of Canva. And I have something that says me, that speaks to me and my target market, but done and created by someone who actually knows what she's doing and is an animator and a designer. I think that's fantastic. I love that. Okay, so I want to, and PS, and by the way, we should mention now, and we'll mention it later as well too, but how does someone get brand kits if they want access to that?
Oh, you can definitely go to the site in brand-kits.com, and there's a shop in there. I'm working on a membership because my goal and my dream would be, and this comes from me, I hate Facebook ads. I will tell you right now. I can't.
They can hear you right now, but it's okay. Zuckerberg can hear you, but keep going.
Hate them, but so for me, when I was designing brand kits, I was like, how do I feel about Facebook ads? And I know there's a lot of people that feel that way about design. Like, you don't know what the hell you're doing, and you have to get this done. You don't have the money to pay somebody to do it. So you're like, okay, I need to DIY this. What I wanted always was the support of somebody who knew what they were doing. I wanted a safety net. And that's what I built with the membership. Because you can take these kits and then you can still be stressed out and annoyed and whatever. But you can also take these kits and, like, if you're in the membership, you can get access to all the kits at once. But then you also get access to me. And I'm your safety net, because then you can post all your stuff in there and I'll look at it and I'll tell you, fix this, fix that. And I explain why, because I really, like I said, I was not a designer. I was an animator and I learned it. I think anybody can learn design. So, and that's why I'm pissing people off.
You're telling all the secrets. But you know what's so great about that, and I think that's one of the reasons that we're so similar is and you could join, like, network marketing. They tell you, don't do this, do this, do this, but they don't ever tell you why. One thing I love to do is empower my membership and anyone listening to the podcast on, like, not just, hey, this is not just post this, but this is why you're posting it. Right. This is why you're doing this video. This is why it matters and where it's going. So I love that you are like, let me tell you why, so people can understand it and maybe even like design a little bit more.
They actually do. We've done a couple of color workshops. I never thought that they were going to go crazy. Like, I basically took somebody's palette that they were having a hard time with. And so I just started going in, shared my screen, and I showed them what I would do. They loved it. Then I give them the file so they're able to work with it. But they love being able to understand why the choices are made, and it's just easier. It's somebody telling you, because we're not stupid people. We know we can learn. So it's so nice and now people love working with color. They're always going crazy in there. But yeah, I love knowing why. That's how I was when I was little. But why?
Wow. But why? And now you grew up and now you're telling people why. Yeah. So that's great. Mary has a question. I think it's a great one. She wants to know if you do logo reviews and advise on whether a logo is sending the message you want to send. Do you do those like a la carte?
Oh yeah, I have. I think I called it. I didn't know what to call it as a catch-all. I have like a strategy call. So a lot of people want to talk strategy, but I can do reviews. I can do whatever. So I can do that as part of the membership. I do that all the time. Whatever is needed, you just put it in there. And I really was like, I remember talking to my husband about it. I was like, I really don't even care if people have some other person's template and they want to, like, you're designing. I want to help you design. So
well, That's a segue too, because the question's been asked. How much is the membership? People want to know.
The membership is $97 per quarter or $297 for the year.
Nice.
And a couple people told me I'm crazy doing that, but I don't know. I don't want it to be something that you can't do. Something like I want people to be there and like me. And I have a Facebook group where I'm like, I feel supported. I know if I need help, I can go in there. That's what I want. I think DeSola called it, she's like, you offer design support. Tech support, design support. I'm like, yes, that's right.
I love it. DeSola Davis gets a plug on another podcast.
I love it.
She's amazing. I love this. Okay, so I want to make sure we've covered like everything, and I feel like we have. And what I hope, if you're listening and you're a network marketer, is I hope you realize, even if you're like, gosh, that network marketing business I'm doing is it's my side gig, or it's just I'm just getting a little bit of money or paying for my products. That doesn't mean that you can't use social media for what it is, for branding yourself, for whatever it is you want to do, and realize that your network marketing is just part of that, which I think is just so phenomenal. Do you have any parting words or anything you'd like to tell us, Kimberly?
Yeah, I think if you don't remember anything I said, like, just remember that your brand grows with you, that you don't have to stress out about looking perfect. Like, there's a lot of stress and whatever around being professional and perfect and whatever. I think all those things are beautiful. I love beautiful design, of course, but it can be a progression. Like, you can get there. It can be a milestone that you reach. It doesn't have to be this thing that because sometimes if you're stressing so much about that, it can keep you from getting started. And that would be horrible.
Yeah, preach. Get in action, even if it's messy action.
Yeah.
And that's so much better than doing nothing.
Yeah, and drawing, you have to get all the ugly drawings out before you actually do something good. Like that's something that I tell in my group all the time. Like, and this is, I hadn't talked about it before because it's so common for artists. Like, we always say that you got to get the ugly drawings out. And you do, especially when you've been out of practice. You have to get all these ugly drawings out, practice, whatever. And then once you get the ugly out, then you can draw and do the beautiful things. So that's the part where you're trying to get the ugly out, and then you can continue. So you're
almost making space for the final product.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I'm going to visually think about it that way as well too. Like, let me get the ugly out, then I get
all the little sketches that you have to get out, and then you can do the final painting.
I love that. If you're listening and you're like, oh my gosh, I need more Kimberly. I know you do. It's true. Couple of things. I'm so excited because she is also you are also Kimberly, our guest trainer inside of the Social Stories membership this month. And so if you're not in Social Stories yet, you probably should become a member like immediately, because she's going to be here hanging out with us. But also, we now do a Roxtalks podcast live on Fridays at 9:30 a.m. And so Kimberly will be here this Friday. If you're listening and you're like, this Friday, that means the 9th, August 9th. She'll be in Clubhouse with us. So you'll have access to her, ask her any questions you want. We'll have a discussion where we really talk about and talk through more of the branding process. I wouldn't be surprised if we talk about some emotions and some clarity there as well too.
Yeah.
However, if you're like, I need more than just those two things, I need more Kimberly. Kimberly, what is the best way for us to find you?
Definitely find me at brand-kits.com. You can see the membership in there. You can see the shop in there. And my handle on Instagram is brand.kits. So you can find me there. I'm always talking about branding in there.
Fantastic. Love it. Love it. Thank you so much for this. We appreciate you so much. I rest my case. Did you get 1, 2, 3, 10 great nuggets and ways you can apply what Kimberly said to what you're doing right now with your branding? I hope you did. And if you need to listen back to this podcast, listen back to it to get it. But I do want to invite you on Friday. We're going to be live. Just a reminder, on Clubhouse at 9:30 Pacific time. That's a.m. Pacific time with Kimberly Costa. You'll be able to ask her any follow-up questions you had. And we're going to work through those things we talked about in the podcast today. So we'd love to see you there live in the Social Stories Club. Anyone's invited to that room. We'll see you then. So it's time for a little behind the scenes. It is literally like almost the last day of March, which is fun. And, March, I would say, was a longer month, which it is technically a longer month. It's 31 days, but it felt long. But not in a bad way, just in a way, if that makes sense. What I'm finding and seeing is a lot of people kind of checked out in a lot of ways. Is that you? And that's okay. I had a one-on-one client who came to me today and she's like, Roxanne, I have nothing to bring. I took a pause. A conscious pause, and I've got nothing to bring to the table today. I'm like, well, yes, you do. And we talked through a bunch of things she ended up having. But I want to remind you all that we have different stages and places in our life. And there'll be times when we are all balls to walls, all in, we're doing the challenges, we're rocking our business, we're like doing all the IPA. And then there's going to be times where we're going to go, you know what, I'm going to take a pause and take a break and walk out and walk away from that. That does not put you behind. That is exactly where you need to be. So please don't ever think that if you decide, hey, today it doesn't serve me to work my business, then guess what? Don't work your business. Do what serves you, because that's when you're going to see the joy in what you're doing. Being more intentional, what you're doing is going to give you the joy, and you'll also find more progress in the journey. So just wanted to say that. Other than that, we've just been hanging. I'm trying to think what's going on in our lives. We're done with Yellowstone. We finally watched the last episode of Yellowstone. We were kind of waiting because it's like, what am I going to do? It doesn't come out again until August, but man, it was so good. And so we're a little bit at a loss for what do we watch now? But we've been watching basketball because Baylor was in the Elite Eight for the men's and the women's team. My Lady Bears fell. They lost yesterday in the Elite Eight. And if you're a UConn fan, okay, but that was a foul. So that hurt. But the Baylor men did make it to the Final Four, which is really exciting because it's been 71 years. Kind of been a drought, just a little. Like, think about that. That was probably around the time of the last pandemic. That's how, well, no, almost though. It's been a long time. And so it's really exciting to see that we had that and just hope that we win it all. So we've been watching basketball, enjoying life a little bit, and planning some things coming up. In fact, I'll wait. You'll be the first to hear. But yeah, I'll wait. But things are coming. Things are coming. And P.S. And by the way, when you're listening to this, we're in the middle of the engagement challenge. So if you're not part of the Stories family, that is totally fine. You know that. But you're part of my family because you're listening to the podcast. And we'd love to have you in the free challenge going on right now in the Social Media for Network Marketers Facebook group. So come join us there and get your engagement rocking. All right. That is all I have for you today. You are a joy. Know that. And a special reminder that you are not ahead. You're not behind. You're exactly where you need to be. So glad that you're here with me, and I'll see you next week for another episode of Roxtalks. Take care.